Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And of course, I believe that LinkedIn is one of the tools that we absolutely, positively must use if we want to be successful in business. And once again, we are dedicating an entire month of programs just for LinkedIn tips. And we're going to have so much fun because this month, it's all new guests. Somebody that I've never talked with LinkedIn about in detail for every single one of our guests. So I'm going to learn just as much as everybody else. That said, my guest today is a repeat guest. It's been about 18 months since we chatted, but we didn't talk really much about LinkedIn before. So this is still going to be perfect. So please join me in welcoming Michael Zipursky to our program today. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, Deb, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will dive into this because you have so much information to share. So Michael Zipursky is the CEO of Consulting Success, where they specialize in helping entrepreneurial consultants grow profitable, scalable, and strategic consulting businesses. He has advised organizations like Financial Times, Dow Jones, RBC, and helped Panasonic launch new products into global markets. But more importantly, he's helped over 500 consultants from around the world in over 75 industries add 6 and 7 figures to their annual revenues. Over 35,000 consultants read his weekly consulting newsletter. Michael is also the author of the Amazon bestsellers Act Now: How Successful Consultants Thrive During Chaos and Uncertainty, The Elite Consulting Mind, and Consulting Success, the book. And he has an upcoming book, The Future of Consulting. So again, Michael, welcome.
Great to be with you, Deb. I'm excited for this.
Great. Well, remind us again how it is that you discovered that helping entrepreneurs become successful consultants is your passion in life.
Yeah, I mean, it's my background. So just out of high school, when I transitioned into my first year of college, was when I launched my first consulting business, although I didn't think about it as a consulting business at that time. It was a web design development company that my cousin Sam, who remains my business partner to this day, and we built and sold and ran multiple businesses together over the years. But I got it into that business where Sam was really focused on the design and development, and I was much more on the communications and marketing, kind of client interactions. And so that was the first experience of consulting, of providing advice and recommendations and strategy and ideas for our clients. And so over many years now, 21 years, been doing this and working with clients in many different industries all around the world, as you mentioned. And so as we ran these different consulting businesses, we really got to see what was working, what wasn't working from a marketing perspective, a messaging perspective, a proposal perspective, building expertise and being recognized. And so when we started Consulting Success about 12, 13 years ago, we did it with the idea of how can we share what we've learned, the good, the bad, the ugly, kind of the best practices from the trenches, from the front lines, with others to help them to be more successful in getting involved in the consulting industry or growing an existing consulting business. And so, fast forward to today, we've had thousands of consultants and people go through our training programs. We've personally worked with over 500 consultants in our Clarity coaching program. And, I think consulting is just such a wonderful opportunity because there's many people out there who have deep expertise and experience. And oftentimes they're delivering that expertise and experience, to the benefit of their employer. But when they want to really realize their own potential, when they want to have the ability to live and work, anywhere or on their own schedule and really kind of be the masters of their own destiny, consulting is one of the best paths to do that because the infrastructure or the resources or the investment required to get started is very low. The barrier to entry is quite low.
Right.
And if you really do have great expertise and you can provide results and value for people, you have the right ingredients to get started and to be successful.
Right. Well, I promise we're going to talk about LinkedIn, but I do want to talk about the fact that we've been in the pandemic for a little over a year now. So have you seen? And I'm guessing, I have a guess, but how much have the number of consultants gone up? Has there been a big increase? Have people, some people lost their jobs either by choice, by furlough, by whatever. And then of course there were people who went, I don't know that I want to go to work for somebody anymore. Is that true? Did you find a big increase in the number of consultants?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've certainly seen an increase in the number of consultants reaching out to us and looking for support and help to grow their businesses. There's been, I guess, a couple of different camps. The first are those that you mentioned who were working, in executive positions or just in some level of employment. And they had either been thinking for quite some time, like, I want to get into consulting, but they never were ready to pull the trigger. And when COVID started and some people were either laid off or they just recognized, like, yeah, now is the time to do something. They went ahead and dove into the water. And so those were the first group that we saw a lot more people reaching out. Others who we saw an increase in conversations with are those who had existing consulting businesses, but most of their business came through referrals or kind of their own network.
Okay.
And they just felt like that wasn't sustainable. Or they were working on existing projects with clients, maybe one or two main clients, and those projects got cut or they got stalled and paused. And so then you had, many people who effectively their revenue started to dry up. They couldn't see into the future. They didn't have, predictability anymore into kind of where things would go or what they would look like. And so they reached out to get help, especially with their marketing and to be able to build and to scale up their business. So it was less reliant on the things that they were just relying on.
Right.
And so diversifying, kind of strengthening some of those weaker areas. But overall, I don't have an exact number, but I know if you just look at all the different even services where you can find contractors and freelancers, I mean, every one of these has grown significantly. And so we've definitely seen it in the world of consulting where more and more people are getting into the business. And there's a lot of opportunity to be had because many organizations that used to be maybe a little bit hesitant to working with consultants or bringing in external people because they always thought, the value of having an employee is having them physically near me, right? Or meeting in person.
We've got my thumb on them.
Yeah, and COVID really proved that. Sure, I mean, there's definitely value in that, but that's changed now.
Right.
And organizations, large and small, have realized that going forward, they may never go back to the same physical footprint that they had because they can, maybe have people come in once or twice or 3 times a week. But certainly many organizations won't require people to come in 5 times a week. And so now what they're looking for and they're recognizing is value is actually not about having people in the same physical location. Value can be created and shared and extracted and so forth, from anywhere in the world. Right. And so that's really exciting because you could literally be anywhere in the world. And if you have an expertise, you can then deliver that to an organization that needs your support. And organizations are now more open to that. They're actually, looking for that because it allows them to access that expertise, but it's significantly less cost because they don't have to pay a full-time salary and all the benefits and all the, physical space that would be previously required to support those people.
Right. And that's one of the ways that LinkedIn is really helping consultants because there are more people outside the United States and North America that are on LinkedIn than here. I mean, it is such a great place for people to connect around the world. And, and so that's why it's so important to have a profile that is just absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is a great platform. It's a platform that I've personally been involved with for many, many years. And I think that there's lots of opportunity there. And as we kind of chatted a little bit before, I mean, there's also a lot of things to be careful of on that platform. And I think a lot of areas where people aren't leveraging it in the most effective way, but we're happy to get into those.
Well, I'm guessing that, one of the things is, especially for people who, were in a corporate environment, and and now are working on their own, and maybe they're doing both. I mean, a lot of people have ended up doing some side gigs and things like that. And for so many people, and we've seen this, with LinkedIn forever, we went on years ago, we kind of uploaded our resume and we went, okay, that's fine. Look at that. And then we never really went back. And now is the time, especially if you are a consultant, that as I said, you really have to have a profile that stands out. So what do you see as one of the biggest mistakes that people use or people make on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'd love to come back to the profile because
Okay.
I think there's an important note on what people are doing there and that they could be doing differently. But even before we talk about something as tangible as the profile, the big mistake that I see people making is they focus on LinkedIn in terms of connecting with potential buyers with the wrong mindset. And what I mean by that specifically is the mindset that a lot of people have is transactional. They think about, how can I, sell what I have to offer? How can I essentially, get in front of more people? Like the more, the better, the more activity, the better. And what they're really not focusing on, which is unfortunate, is relationships. And how can I communicate and deliver more value? And in especially the business of consulting, it's all based on relationships. It's all based on how much value you can provide and deliver. And so if you're going in with a mindset of simply, how can I, make a sale, or how can I, get someone to take this one action, and you're not really thinking about how you can contribute, I think your mindset will tend to be more short term. And if you want long-term success, you can't think only short term. So that's the first thing I just think from a mindset perspective, to encourage people to open up and really think about, how can you become a source of value? How can you be, how can you become kind of a source of truth in your industry, where people actually see you as a leader, where you can demonstrate value and demonstrate leadership through what you are sharing and posting and your overall activity. So that'd be the first thing. The second thing regarding the profile, I think is a really great point, because a lot of people, and especially those who have previously used LinkedIn as a way to get a job, right? It's essentially been kind of like their resume. Their profile reads like a resume. But when you want to use LinkedIn to build your business, right, to build your brand, then you really want to start thinking about your LinkedIn profile more as a mini website, more as a marketing material where you can showcase not just the things that you have, not only the places that you've worked, but more importantly, what have you accomplished? What results have you helped people to achieve? Right? What problems are you an expert in solving? One very common thing is I'll see people in their LinkedIn headline, it'll simply say something like, founder or president at whatever the company name.
They've got their job title.
Correct. And that is, more of the employee mindset, where sure, if you were the VP of operations, like sure, it said VP of operations because that's what you did. But if you want to now go out and generate business, the three things that people typically see on LinkedIn the most anywhere on the whole platform is your photo, your name, and your headline. And so, your photo, you want to have a great photo, your name. I mean, you can't, of course you can change it, but most people are not going to change their name, right? So it is what it is. But your headline, that's a massive opportunity to instantly communicate what it is that you do and to grab the attention of your ideal client. And if it just simply says president or principal or whatever,
we don't care.
Correct. You're missing very valuable, real estate and opportunity.
Right. Yeah. Let me read your headline just to give folks an example of what a great headline is. So it's got your picture, as you mentioned, and your name. And then it says, we've helped over 500 entrepreneurial consultants grow profitable, predictable, and strategic consulting businesses. CEO and podcast host at Consulting Success. Right there, it says it all. So we know, as the casual reader, exactly who you are and what you do, and more importantly, if we would be a good connect. If I have no desire really to be an entrepreneur, then I may or may not connect with you. But when I see that you've worked with entrepreneurs and specifically entrepreneurial consultants, that's where I'm thinking, ooh, I need to connect with Michael because he's going to provide great information for me to become successful.
Yeah. That's the purpose of the headline, is to communicate and to get the attention and interest of those that you want to get their attention and interest, right? There's a lot of noise on a platform like LinkedIn, as there are with every other social media platform. And so in order for you to stand out and to be noticed, you need to really speak to and resonate and align with what your ideal clients are already thinking about. If you don't do that, then you're just another, kind of piece in the puzzle that there's, or piece amongst many others. But to truly differentiate yourself, you need to connect with the thoughts and the goals, the desires that are on the mind of your ideal client.
Right. Now you work with both, existing consultants to take them to the next level, but also a lot of new people, as we were saying. Do you find that it's, that it's a big change that they have to make with their LinkedIn profiles when they were in, say, a corporation as an employee, and now they're king of the world? They're king of their own world, queen of their own world. What do they have to do from a LinkedIn perspective to show that? Because we still want them to show all of their vast work experience. Hopefully it's vast, but and knowledge. But how do they transition that from, hey, I've always worked in a corporation, but now I'm going to be able to help you?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a very important topic. We have a whole training on this in our program called LinkedIn Profile Optimization.
Cool.
And the key areas, I mean, starting from the top, you have your banner, right? Right at the top, kind of behind your photo on your LinkedIn profile.
I call it a billboard. It's back there behind your head like a billboard.
Right. And that's an opportunity to showcase, or to put out a message to really speak to who it is that you want to serve and help. And so that would be just low hanging fruit for people to look at. Then, of course, we talked about the headline. The next area of great opportunity, and actually, before I even get into this, I think just from a mindset perspective, like the overall high level that people want to consider is when you work in an organization, the focus is always on the organization's product or service or the brand in the company. It's not on you.
Right.
But when you
helped Acme Company make widgets.
Yeah, or exactly whatever it is that that you're doing. Like, even from a mindset perspective, your focus is never really on how to showcase just yourself in the best light. It's how do you showcase the product or the service that the company has. But when you become a consultant, you are the product. You are that initial service. And so the big challenge I think that a lot of people have, and in making that transition, but you can make it very successfully when you have the right tools, is to understand that you need to put yourself out there, right? You need to promote yourself. You need to really shine a spotlight on all of the accomplishments and achievements and results and value that you have and can deliver. Because if you don't do that yourself, nobody else will do it for you. And so that does, push kind of the boundaries or kind of rub up against a level of comfort / discomfort to a lot of people, because it's something that they haven't done a lot before. But once you recognize that is actually critical, because the more that you can get out there and let people know that you can help them, the more you'll actually be able to help them. And if you don't tell them that you can help them, you're actually doing a disservice to them, because then you'll have people who are out there who need your help, but they don't know that you exist. And so you have a responsibility to let those people know. All right, so that was high level. But if we go back into the profile itself, I mean, your about section, you have essentially 2 to 3 lines before LinkedIn cuts that off, and you have to click see more. A lot of people have, if they even have some valuable information, that they bury it at the bottom, and so most people will not even see it, because it's just those first few lines. So what you want to do is you want to be able to grab people's attention instantly before that, before you expect them to read further. And the focus of all of your content on your LinkedIn profile should be really about how can you show empathy? How can you show that you understand what your ideal clients are going through? What challenges are they facing? What frustrations do they have? What goals, and desires, are on their mind? And you want to speak to those. And so if we now move a little bit further down in the LinkedIn profile, you have your experience section. And that's an area where, you don't want to just list that you were the VP or the manager at X company for X number of years.
Right.
I would always encourage people to, maybe you might have one short paragraph just talking about what you did there. But the most important part, in my opinion, is to actually have bullet points in those sections that list your achievements and results that you've had in those places. So oftentimes consultants will say, but I'm new to consulting. I haven't been doing it for a while. I don't have much to talk about. That's fine. But you've been an employee, right? You've worked in different organizations. You've been a part of different types of projects that have created results. Talk about those, right? Share how you helped the company to grow the customer base, or to increase productivity, or to reduce churn, or reduce employee turnover, like whatever it was that you did. talk about that and
Right.
make it as tangible and specific as
Mhm.
you can.
Yeah.
Because
People
in a
like
world,
numbers.
yeah, people love numbers.
Mhm.
They love things that are specific and
Mhm.
detailed because we're surrounded by so much noise from
Mhm.
advertisements and different
Mhm.
messages that our brain usually shuts all those things off.
Mhm.
It kind of tries to protect us from all the
Mhm.
noise so we can stay focused. But the one thing that does very well in actually getting our attention, because it's different than what most people do, is specifics, right?
Mhm.
Numbers, percentages, company
Right.
names, things of that nature.
Mhm.
That's what cuts through all the clutter
Mhm.
and noise and allows your message to be heard.
Mhm. Right. And we, as you're saying, we want to know those specifics. I don't want to know that, that you help the company sell, the widget, because I might not even care what the widget is, but I want to know, okay, with under your leadership, the widget sales increased by 50%.
Mhm.
I want to know that you managed a budget of $500,000, all those various things. And, people very often will say, oh my gosh, I don't have numbers like that. I don't, we don't have big numbers. Well, that's where percentages can be used. $100 as it might not look impressive, but 10%, well, that looks fairly impressive, and, obviously never ever lie. Don't, never, never, never. But you can, and then do detail. Don't just say, we, under my management, we, improve the sales by 20%. Then people want to know why. How did you do that? And that's the great thing about the experience section, and doing what you said, putting bullets in, because it's quick. People can look at it. If they want a lot of detail, they can look, read a bit more. If they just want to skim it, they can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, we're looking for that information. They're not at your profile just to be at your profile. They really want information from you. And it is difficult when you're just starting out, whether you're just starting out, period, but if you're really starting out as a consultant, to think about, what could be there. I've talked with a lot of former military people, and one of the things they say is, I can't really put in there what I did. And some of it, I mean, you don't want to. I mean, depending on what you did, you don't want to tell people some of those things, but you still probably managed people. You manage budgets. I mean, all of those things, and that resonates with people.
Yeah, everyone has, what I often say to clients, Deb, is that you should focus on your strengths.
Mhm.
Don't try and compensate for your weaknesses. Just
Mhm.
focus on strengths.
Right.
We all have areas of strength. We all have experiences. We all have areas of expertise, and that's
Mhm.
what you want to do. Is you want to shine a spotlight on, that area of differentiation
Mhm.
and where you really have created value, and where you can,
Mhm.
again, offer new perspectives and insights
Mhm.
for people. And the more that you do that, not just in your profile, but
Mhm.
also when it comes to content and everything else that you are creating and putting out there,
Mhm.
the more that'll help you to build your brand.
Right. And it is about, as you were saying, putting out that content too. You can put experience, you can put volunteer experience, all these various things, and people have different thought processes on things. Do you put dates? Sometimes you're required to put dates. LinkedIn is kind of changing some things where you don't have to always put dates, but it's not just putting those in. It is putting content. It's doing posts, it's doing all of those various things. So, how can we, first of all, people are like, I don't even know what to post. So how do we get them over that? And then what do they do?
Yeah. So, I mean, all of us have experiences and stories that we can share on a
Mhm.
platform like LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Take an example of, you could tell a story of a situation that you encountered when you were an employee. You can talk about an insight that you had when you were walking down the street. I mean,
Mhm.
the thing about content creation is when you actually start to train your brain to look for ideas, you'll see
Mhm.
them all around you. And then the
Right.
creation of content becomes very,
Mhm.
very easy. It's hard when you're not actively thinking about it, when you kind
Mhm.
of leave it to the last minute, or it's not a priority for
Right.
you, then you find it quite challenging. But
Mhm.
in terms of, LinkedIn and content, it doesn't matter so much what format you post. I mean, it could be like just a text post. It could
Mhm.
be video, which also works
Mhm.
really well. It could be some kind of audio clip. There's all, slides. There's
Mhm.
lots of different
Mhm.
things that you can post. But what you want to really do is you want to just post as much as you can, as often as you
Mhm.
can. And you want to then look and see, where are you getting engagement.
Mhm.
So for example, let's say that you put up a video where you share your recent experience of a situation and how you think it could be done differently, or you
Mhm.
ask a thought-provoking question. And then you apply some best practices where maybe you tag some people who
Mhm.
you think could also help to add to the
Mhm.
context or ideas for the story, or just you talk about how you tag some people that you think have done a very good job of something, and then you also may put in some hashtags so that more people can find that
Mhm.
content when they're searching. But then what happens is you start to see, do people like and comment or share that content?
Mhm.
And as you start putting out more content, you start to see what kinds of topics resonate with people because there's higher levels of
Mhm.
engagement, and what topics people don't
Mhm.
resonate with because there's not much engagement. And
Right.
then what that tells you is lean in and do more,
Mhm.
right? Create more and
Mhm.
go deeper into the areas where you're having higher engagement.
Mhm.
And I think that's what a lot of people hesitate. They're looking for, and they're thinking about, how do I create the best content? Or,
Right.
I don't want to talk about something too early. I want to wait till my website
Mhm.
is ready. Or they create all these reasons and quote unquote kind of excuses
Mhm.
for not putting stuff out there. But you want to recognize that the more that you put out there, the more that you will learn. I mean, the
Mhm.
best artists in the world, whether they're singers or painters, they don't just write one song and
Mhm.
and put it out there. Like,
Right.
they're always creating new songs.
Mhm.
We only see, like the album of 12
Mhm.
tracks or 16 tracks or whatever it is. That's there was a lot more. There's many more
Mhm.
songs that went into
Right.
that before they released those. Same
Mhm.
as with a painter, right?
Mhm.
You see one masterpiece, but we don't see the other 50
Mhm.
pieces that went in before that they
Mhm.
thought weren't good enough, but they tried them. And
Mhm.
so if you want to get good at content creation and having really the benefit that content can provide for your business, then you want to really think about, how can you just be prolific with your content creation?
Mhm.
How can you just put stuff out there, see what resonates, learn from
Mhm.
that, and then as you're doing that, right, it'll give you much greater clarity into what to focus more on
Mhm.
and what to do less of. And just one other tip that I'd offer people in terms of content creation on LinkedIn specifically, because it's a big opportunity, is, let's say you post on LinkedIn, again, it can be any format.
Mhm.
Then you start seeing that people will like, or they'll comment, or they'll share your content.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of people don't do anything with that. They just go, oh, it's nice to see, like, some people liked, some people
Mhm.
commented. But what I would encourage you to do is that when someone likes or comments on
Mhm.
your post, reach out to that person,
Right.
thank them
Engage with
for,
them. Mhm.
correct, because that's a great way to create conversations that
Mhm.
many people aren't really using. And if you think about LinkedIn as a platform to create conversations and share ideas,
Mhm.
then you wouldn't just post something and leave it there. If
Mhm.
people do engage, make sure that you're commenting and following
Mhm.
up and checking in, because that can lead to creating a valuable
Mhm.
relationship that could ultimately turn into somebody who wants to do business with you.
Right. Right. Yeah, because you got their attention. So now work it. And it is easy to go through and just click like on some things, but we're busy people. We don't do that nearly as much as we do on Facebook,
Yeah.
or the other social platforms. We do kind of, we might have paused a bit to have read it on LinkedIn. So yeah, we stopped, we thought about it, oh, okay, well, I'm going to click like here, or even more, I'm going to comment.
Another thing too, Deb, that people can think about is, if you're hesitating developing your own content, or putting up your own posts, another opportunity is just to really look at and follow the people that you want to do business with.
Hmm.
The brands, the companies, the
Hmm.
decision makers, and try and track their
Hmm.
activity. And so when they post something, become a source of perspective and ideas. So
Okay.
what I mean by that is, when somebody posts something and you can add expertise,
Hmm.
jump in and comment,
Hmm.
because
Right.
the more that you do that, the more that people will see. And
Hmm.
keep in mind that when you respond or you comment on somebody's post, it's not just your connections that are seeing that you
Hmm.
commented there. You're now accessing
Hmm.
and showing up in new
Hmm.
networks of people that you've never had any connection with.
Right.
And when you do that in a very thoughtful way, where you're
Hmm.
kind of delivering valuable
Hmm.
information and ideas, people will take notice to that, and they'll go, who is this person?
Hmm.
And when they do that they're going to look at your comment.
Hmm.
They're going to see that it's thoughtful. They're going to look at your headline,
Hmm.
right, and your name and photo, and they're going
Hmm.
to go,
Right,
oh,
because
that's
that
what this person
appears.
does.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're an expert in this
Hmm.
area. And so now if they ever need or want more information or need help in that specific
Hmm.
area, you're going to be top of mind, because you've already demonstrated value. Even though you don't have any connection with that person, you've never had a conversation, you've demonstrated value just
Hmm.
by adding value to that
Right.
conversation. You can do that through your own content, but you
Hmm.
can also do that by jumping on kind of the back of other
Hmm.
people's content and providing a thoughtful response.
Right. And it's important that when you're doing that, it's not a sales thing, unless somebody said, "Hey, I need help with X," then it's, but if, say they, you're just commenting, as you said, you want to add value. You want to be thoughtful. This is not the place to say, "Hey, I've got this product that I can sell you," because that's an immediate turnoff, might get blocked. I mean, all sorts of things. So again, you want to provide good, thoughtful, helpful comments.
Totally.
And I love it when people just post good article, great. No, tell me why it was a good article, all those things. But of course, the key in doing your post is to generate those comments. I tell people all the time, ask a question. Even if you're sharing someone else's content. So, maybe you saw a great article on Forbes or Entrepreneur, or, somebody else on LinkedIn had something that you're sharing. That's great, but say why you're sharing it, and then say, what do you think, or something along those lines. Get those conversations going.
Yeah, I would highly recommend, it's something that I tell clients a lot is, if you want to start creating more awareness for what you're doing and have more conversations, then you need to be active. You can't expect to see great results on a platform like LinkedIn if you're not active and consistent, with publishing videos or other types of content. But if you commit to it and you post multiple times a week, ideally maybe once a day or a couple of times a day, and you do that for a few weeks, you typically will start to see some kind of positive signal. Now, it might not be that you have a lot more business from doing that, but if you do things right, you certainly will be able, and you should start seeing again some positive kind of signals that you're going in the right direction. But it needs to be done consistently.
Right. And as you said, finding that content, I mean, it's everywhere. And it was funny, as you were talking about that, I was thinking about a post I did yesterday on Facebook. And now I almost never complain on Facebook. That's just not me. I complained yesterday. We'd gone to a fast food place, bad service, all sorts of stuff all the way around. And I was cranky and I posted about it. Now, I would never, ever, ever do something like that on LinkedIn. I mean, that's just, I just don't believe that's the platform for it. But I could have thought about it and thought, okay, how can I turn this post into something that's beneficial? So I could have said, here's what they could have done. They got my meal wrong, and basically they blew me off. I mean, she said, too bad, next. And so instead of that, I could have said, okay, great customer service would have been to do this and this and this. And so, you're right. We're posting things on other sites that we could be repurposing and putting on LinkedIn in an appropriate way.
Yeah.
And I love posting other people's stuff, and I think that's one of the things, especially if you're just starting out or if you're just starting to really use LinkedIn again. It is perfectly fine to be posting industry articles, to be sharing other people's content. Aside from anything else, it shows that you're doing something, you're active, but it's showing, maybe you're wanting to get into marketing consulting. Okay, if you start sharing, you can't, don't do like 5-10 a day, but if you share maybe 4 articles a week that are marketing articles, people who look at that go, "Oh, Deb's been doing her research. She's keeping up on these things."
For sure.
And that's a great way to do some of those things. Now, one of the things that we see a lot of that just always makes me cringe, but at the same time I understand it, is automating things. And I'll be honest, I automate some things just because I don't want to have to remember, okay, business power hour goes live at X point in time. We need to, so we automate that. But there's what are the good, the bad, the ugly with automating things on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, you have to be very careful with automation tools. This is not legal advice, but I know that LinkedIn doesn't look favorably on a lot of these tools, and that's for good reason, because a lot of them are essentially used for spam.
Right.
So back to what I mentioned earlier, the mindset of relationships over transactions, and so a lot of people look at LinkedIn as an opportunity to generate a lot of business. And so in their minds, they think quantity over quality. They think, here's an automation tool that will allow me to send, 100 connection requests a day, or
Mhm.
send out, this message to many, many people at one time. And that might, have its place. But
Mhm.
the danger, I think what people really want to be careful of is that when you send a message or you send a connection request
Mhm.
and the person on the other side can tell that it's not for them, like
Right.
they really know, right, that
Mhm.
this message
Yeah.
is likely going to
Dear
many other
occupant.
people. Yeah. Then it equals spam, right? It
Mhm.
equals just a disturbance and a
Mhm.
distraction for them. And not only are they unlikely to accept your connection
Mhm.
request or to engage with you, they might block you, or
Mhm.
they might,
They might report you, even
yeah,
worse.
do something, put you down as spam on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. And if you have too many people doing that,
Mhm.
that's not going to be good for your future use
Mhm.
on that platform. And
Mhm.
so my encouragement to people is, if you're going to look at any of these tools that can help you to automate things and be more efficient, really do your best to do it on a small scale.
Mhm.
Really do it your best to try and make whatever you're sending or doing as relevant as possible
Mhm.
for people. Because if your message to somebody is not specific, if it's not relevant to them,
Mhm.
and I get these messages every single day from people who will send an email to me or a connection request or whatever. And as number one, the connection request by itself, oftentimes there's no personal message,
Mhm.
or if there is a personal message, you can tell that they've sent the exact same message to
Right.
hundreds or
Mhm.
thousands of other people. I'm not going to engage with that.
Mhm.
But even if somebody gets a message into my inbox because maybe they're using some kind of tool to do so,
Mhm.
the message oftentimes appears far too salesy. So I have
Mhm.
no connection to this person. We've never talked about anything. They don't know anything about our
Mhm.
business, but they'll send an offer like, hey, I can help you with this thing.
Mhm.
And my first reaction, which I believe is the reaction of most people when they
Mhm.
receive messages like this, is they just delete them. They're not
Right.
interested.
Oh, yeah.
And
And it
and it
might be
sends
great stuff, but you just turn them off right at the very start.
Correct. And it sends the wrong message,
Mhm.
because if you're looking to build a relationship based on value for the
Mhm.
long term with somebody, again, think long term, think relationship over
Mhm.
transaction. You would never go right away, hey, here's what we do. Do you want to buy my
Mhm.
thing, without truly understanding
Mhm.
anything about their business or demonstrating that you've done
Mhm.
some research? And so, it depends what you're doing. If you're
Mhm.
offering a very commoditized, someone's buying a pair of socks or a toothbrush, maybe you can just be more direct and say, hey, here's what I have. I
Mhm.
offer the cheapest toothbrushes around.
Mhm.
You can get a deal here. Like, sure, maybe if that's your thing. But if you're engaging with people that are going to be spending thousands, tens of thousands,
Mhm.
hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars
Mhm.
in an engagement with you, you want to show that you've done a bit of homework. You want to
Mhm.
show that you truly, value the
Mhm.
relationship with that person.
Mhm.
And that requires you to think about quality over
Right.
quantity.
Mhm.
And so it's much better in those situations to actually recognize, yeah, I may not be able to get my message out to
Mhm.
100 people over X period of time. Maybe I can only get it to 10, but
Mhm.
those 10, the likelihood of them responding is significantly higher. So my encouragement to people is, don't think about quantity in terms of just getting
Mhm.
your, like, blasting your message, because
Mhm.
blasting your message most often doesn't produce a great response and
Right.
result. What you care about at the end of the day is an actual response and
Mhm.
result. And so if you line up and say, okay, I can, push one button and have 100 messages sent, or I can send 10 curated, very
Mhm.
specific messages. At the end of the day, which one is likely to create a better
Mhm.
response? In most cases, the ones
Right.
that are specific
Mhm.
will create a better
Mhm.
response and more conversation. Now, will that take you more work? Yes.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, it takes
ask
longer to
yourself, right?
personalize it. Mhm.
Yeah, how will you feel like if you didn't spend much time because you didn't put a lot of
Mhm.
work in, but you have zero to show for it in terms
Mhm.
of results, or you spent more time but
Mhm.
you got a far better result?
Mhm.
Which would you be
Right.
happier with?
Would
Which would you
yeah,
feel
yeah.
better about?
Mhm.
And clearly that's the kind of thing that you would feel good about spending more time.
Mhm.
Now the other opportunity is to look at how can you scale the things that aren't scalable.
Mhm.
And there's many different ways to approach this,
Mhm.
but one way is to really get very, very clear, narrow, and specific as to who your ideal client is,
Mhm.
so that you can maybe send more messages that are similar
Mhm.
to a group of people, not all at once, but one by one. So the message itself still will be relevant and
Mhm.
specific to that group because you're targeting that group,
Mhm.
but you don't have to spend as much time
Right.
customizing every
Mhm.
single message. So that's
Mhm.
one opportunity that people can think about, how to kind of scale the things that
Mhm.
don't scale.
Right. And for me, the problem with automation is that canned response or canned initial thing. Because you can tell right away, it might not say dear occupant, but it's pretty close to it. And I can always tell, first of all, if they call me Deborah. Now, that is the name that I have on my profile, but I go by Deb. And so people who know me know that. So, yeah, okay, that's going to be one of the first things. And heaven forbid that they have pulled my email off and put it in their program, and so then oh, I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
I've got my email there, but please don't do that, folks. Don't just download everybody's emails and put them automatically in your email thing. But, when you don't personalize, you run the risk of really offending somebody by sending the wrong thing, or just making such a major faux pas. I had somebody, excuse me, several weeks ago who sent me what was, probably fairly clearly a canned message, but it caught my attention. And I thought, oh, well, that actually sounds like, kind of an interesting product, service, whatever it was. And so I replied and I said, you know what, I would like to talk to you more about this. A week goes by.
Mm-hmm.
Cricket. And so, of course, what had happened was I forgot. And, and then when she responded, she said, sure, what would you like to talk about? And my response was, you contacted me. Mm-hmm. And then I never heard from her again. Yeah. But it really was one of those things where it was like, okay, no, at least know what you're sending out. And the same goes with having someone else do your responses for you, and I know, and we're going to talk about how we can really connect with executives, because that's who we want to be connecting with. But, we don't have time. So you might have someone else who's doing some of your responses. Be very careful with those. I had connected with somebody one time, and it was really funny. We'd known each other for years, been in the same business circles for years, volunteered on things together. And for some unknown reason, we weren't connected on LinkedIn. So I remedied that. I sent a note. I said, hey, I don't know why, but we're not connected on LinkedIn. And I got back a generic, hello, it is nice to meet you, response. And I was offended and I was pissed. And I contacted her offline, and I said, what the heck? I said, we have known each other for years, and I get this canned response. And she said, oh, I have a virtual assistant who does all of that for me. And I said, well, not a good plan. I said, take the time to respond yourself. It's just the same thing with if you have an automated response that is sent, it really can set the tone wrong when it's not appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the nature of the world that we live in, that whatever medium or format you are using, I mean, your marketing is never going to be 100%. Right. I think people will make mistakes. You'll send a message that will rub somebody the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And I always encourage people not to take it too personally, because there's a fine balance between sending out, trying to get everything just right, and then maybe never never sending it out or overthinking it out or overthinking it. And so that there's the balance of, yes, try and do your best to be as personal and specific and add value. But even when you do that, sometimes you're going to catch somebody where they're just having a bad day, and you'll get a negative response. And for some people to look at, especially if you're new to doing these kinds of things, you look at it and think, wow, what am I doing wrong? Should I stop this? And you kind of, jump ship and abort. And that's usually not the best plan. So just know that as your brand grows, as you become kind of more known, or you just have more activity around you, the number of people who will, shower you with praise will increase, but so too will the number of people who tell you that, there's something wrong with what you're doing. And that's okay. As long as you truly feel that you're in line and you're doing things the way that you want to be known for how you do things, then keep at it. Because the people that, the goal of marketing always is to polarize. It's to push away the wrong people who won't resonate and won't become buyers, and attract the ones that you ultimately have the greatest fit with and will be, the best clients you want to work with long-term.
Right. Now, I mentioned the fact that, we want to connect with those high level people, especially as a consultant. I want to connect with the buyer, the executive, those types of people, the people who are going to say, yes, we want to do work with Deb. So how do we use LinkedIn to do that?
Yeah, great question. I mean, there's two parts. The first part is to recognize that LinkedIn is not everything.
Right.
LinkedIn is a great
Oh,
platform.
darn.
Yeah, I know, right? It's a great platform to help you to identify ideal clients, to engage with some of them, to demonstrate value and expertise and build relationships. But the reality is that a lot of people, especially kind of, quote unquote, higher levels, and in certain industries as well, are just not active on LinkedIn, even if they have a LinkedIn profile, which means that, it's fine to try
Some
and connect them on
consultants
LinkedIn.
told them they had to have a LinkedIn profile, right?
It's certainly possible. But what I always encourage clients to think about is, how can you build, if it's possible, build that initial connection and relationship on LinkedIn. But the goal should actually be to get off of LinkedIn as quickly as possible. Right. And what I mean by that is LinkedIn, like, having conversation through LinkedIn, that's not really what you want to be aiming for. You want to be aiming for getting somebody on a phone call, right? Or a Zoom meeting, and having an actual meaningful, deep conversation where it's not just, chatting back and forth. So just recognize that, yes, many of your ideal clients, even if they have a profile on LinkedIn, will not be on LinkedIn. And so your goal should be to contact them off of LinkedIn using email and phone and things of that nature. But in terms of, if we just talk about, LinkedIn, the platform itself, and how to increase your response rates and engagement with executives or kind of more savvy buyers, there's a few best practices to consider. And they're actually all about how to differentiate yourself, because what you want to remember is that almost everybody out there, like the majority of people, are doing the exact same thing, which means that these executives and buyers are being bombarded with the same kinds of messages and, over and over again. So here's a few things that you can do that will help you to differentiate yourself. The first is to actually use InMail. So if you're signed up for LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you get a certain number of InMails. And what InMail allows you to do is to send a message through LinkedIn, or an email kind of through LinkedIn, to anyone on LinkedIn, even if you're not connected to them. And so typically you have to be connected to somebody to actually send them a message. But with InMails, you don't have to be connected. And I've used this. I'll give you one example of how I use this. So my mother, probably about almost 2 years ago now, maybe it was a year or so ago, she decided to change her cell phone provider to a different company. And she had just nonstop problems. I got involved and actually ended up calling just because I couldn't believe the level of poor service that she was receiving. And so I was very, very firm and direct, also just very friendly in trying to get this resolved. Multiple times we were promised that it would be resolved, and it wasn't. And so what I ended up doing is I went onto the LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I found about 5 or 6 executives at the highest levels of this, $1 billion+ organization, and I sent them InMails, and I told them, I said, "Here's the situation.
My mom."
I'm surprised. I don't, this shouldn't have to go more public or whatever, but you guys are really, you're doing an injustice here to a senior citizen who is all alone, and like you're causing so much heartache, and this shouldn't be the way that things are." And I got 4 or 5 responses.
Wow.
I got one response literally within an hour or two of sending that message. And this, we're talking about, I don't know if it was a VP or a CTO, or it was, someone very high level in the organization. And the issue was resolved as a result within a few days. And even within the first 24 hours, I was already promised that it would be resolved. And so I've now done this in different occasions. So it's not only about getting business, it's just, I'm demonstrating this as a story to illustrate how you can access very high level people in organizations. And so that's one thing that InMail allows you to do. Now, this should not be used to just say, "Hey, here's what I offer, buy my stuff.
Buy from me, buy from me, buy from me."
Yeah, but if you have something very compelling that would deliver value or might help to provide some new insights, perspectives for an ideal client, InMail is one way for you to actually get in front of those people. That's number one. Number two is that if you're on your phone and you have the LinkedIn app, you can use a LinkedIn voice message. So you push a button, you can record a message, and then send that message to somebody on LinkedIn, and they can listen to it both if they're on their their phone, but also just on a regular computer. But to send it, you have to do it from your phone.
Okay.
Now, why is this so powerful? So I had somebody who I connected with recently, and right after connecting, I got a voice message from her, that said, "Hey, Michael, so nice to connect with you here, blah, 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 blah." She worked in a slight little kind of sales message at the end, but it wasn't off-putting because it wasn't pressure. It wasn't based on pressure. And I could tell that she actually went out of her way to send a personal message. Instantly, that differentiated her from all the other people. So that's another opportunity for people, is to stand out by spending a few seconds sending a voice message. And then the third, we just had one of our clients in our Clarity coaching community that shared this with the group, that what he's been doing, which has helped him to boost his response, is to record a video after he connects with somebody. So he will connect with someone, and then right away he'll record a video that goes to that person. And he posted in our private forum all the different responses that he's been receiving that have been so favorable from people. And some people know clearly, like, you know, he's trying to get business, but they're saying things like,
there's
this
that
is so
little
thoughtful.
cool personal touch.
Exactly. Right. So that's, again, one of the main purposes of effective marketing is to do something differently than everybody else is doing it, to polarize, right, to stand out. So I would highly recommend that people look into those three things, again, in-mail, voice messages, and video messages.
Right. Now, you mentioned InMail is part of Sales Navigator, and I have one of the paid versions of LinkedIn too. And most people, I think they say 85% are still on the free platform, and that's fine. But you know, the cool thing is you can turn those things off and on, you know, and so maybe you're building your business. Okay. You're going to do it for 3 or 4 months, then you're going to turn it back off. And you know, and so that's the thing to consider with that. Would you have any other quick tips for us about how to really benefit from using LinkedIn?
Yeah. I mean, so and within LinkedIn Sales Navigator, it's a really powerful way to identify ideal clients. You can put in criteria and say that you want to target agricultural companies, you know, based in specific states in the US or anywhere in the world, who have decision makers with this specific job title, who have X number of employees or X, you know, or Y, you know, number, like level of revenue. So you can become very specific in identifying and therefore validating who you believe your ideal client is. And then not only are you able to identify who the company is, but the actual person. So now you have a face, you have a name, and these are not people for you to reach out to and build relationships with. But the you know, maybe just one other thought, which we touched on, but I'll just kind of reiterate how important it is, which is to always think about how can you deliver value, and be a person. Don't be shy to share, you know, your vulnerabilities, to tell people about what's going on in your life. I think some people still have this mindset that LinkedIn is only a business platform, but where I've actually seen
always
greater,
be so professional.
correct. Yeah. It's, you know, people are people, and they resonate when they see, and they feel more, you know, they let their guard down when the person on the other side is being open with them. So that doesn't mean that you have to go on LinkedIn and talk about what you ate for breakfast, but you can certainly talk about an experience or a challenge that you faced, what you learned from it. And doing things like that really will help you to build an audience and a following, and having a relationship with people who feel like they know more about who you are.
Right. You know, and those are such fabulous tips, and you know, things that we really should be thinking about no matter what, because you know, it is things, it's just you know, the best use of the platform. But you know, I mentioned at the very start that you have written several books, and the one that I read recently was Act Now: How Successful Consultants Thrive During Chaos and Uncertainty, as in a pandemic. You know, and you know, several of the things that you talked about are things that you have in the book, you know, to show that vulnerability, to reach out and be helping people. You know, I think now more than ever, I mean, like we said, you know, it's been a year that we've been dealing with this. People are still struggling. So just contacting them and saying, hey, Michael, how you doing? You know, that means so much to people. So what are some other tips from your book?
Yeah. So from Act Now, you mean specifically, or the upcoming book, Future of Consulting?
Either one.
Okay. Well, I mean, you touched on one of them, right? So definitely building relationships, you know, reach out to people that you care about, even if it's not, and especially not to talk about business, but just to be a human, you know, to build that relationship.
Right.
We talked about the importance of delivering valuable content and getting that out consistently. I mean, what the future, my new book, The Future of Consulting, is really all about. You know, I think if we're here, we've survived the initial part of COVID. I mean, who knows what's going to happen from here, but I think a lot of people are starting to feel like they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And while that's great, I mean, you know, congratulations to everyone that's survived that. And I know there's been lots of hardship and loss, so I don't want to belittle or put that down. But you know, now what a lot of people are doing is thinking about, okay, like, you know, how do I now just kind of keep growing and building my business? What I think people are forgetting is that, listen, we just now have had this pandemic. we've also experienced some market crashes. Well, both these things have happened in the past, and they're going to happen again, right? So
And
there'll be
it
another
through.
pandemic. Yeah, there'll be another market crash. And so the future of consulting is all about how do you actually prepare for the future? How do you future-proof your business? And so one of the big opportunities for people is to not to just gloss over or neglect, the challenges that they faced over the last year or so, but in fact, to look at areas where you might be weak, to look at areas where you might be reliant, and to ask yourself, how do you deal with those things? How do you take steps to improve those things so that not only can you become stronger and benefit for them now in the short term, but you, as things move forward and we do encounter another challenging, situation, whether it's from a health perspective, like a pandemic, or economic collapse of some sort, how do you actually position yourself and take steps now that when those things happen, you aren't going to be pushed down, you aren't going to be held down, you are going to be in a position where you can actually continue to thrive and prosper. And so while many other people around you are going to be, paralyzed with fear, as that happened at the, beginning March, April of COVID last year, that when that happens next time, you will be able to, be in a sustainable position where you won't have the negative impacts that others will have. So the whole idea is how you can turn, kind of like today's opportunities into tomorrow's business advantage. And so we go through in the future of consulting steps that you can take and thoughts for you to explore and exercises when it comes to your business model, when it comes to how you engage with clients, how you price, how you build your brand. And that's really what, we spend a lot of time thinking about these days and working with our clients on is what can you do again today to not only give you great results today, but also to set yourself up for, for future success and future-proof your business.
Right. Yeah. And that's the key is, so many times we don't do a lot of those things until we have to. And when you're responding more kind of that knee-jerk reaction, there's so many things that can go wrong. But if you have got that good foundation that's there, then all along sure, there might be some peaks and valleys, but you will be set up much better. And we've said it several times. I mean, being a consultant truly is about building those relationships with people, and because you want them to keep coming back, and it's part of what you have to take in mind is, okay, well, if I'm providing a product or service to a company that could be hard hit by some of these things, then what can I do? Or maybe I provide a product or service to a company, like a technology company, or somebody that looked at all this pandemic stuff and went, "Woo, hey, this is pretty cool." And so to be prepared for all of those things, you may, you'll be using them, but maybe you're going to ramp things up or ramp things down, change pricing, I mean, all sorts of things. So it's just a matter of really being prepared for those things. Well, Michael, this really has been fascinating, and I love chatting with you again. So tell people what it is, though, that Consulting Success does, and it's consultingsuccess.com. So tell us more about what services you provide.
Sure. Yeah. So we work with consultants or people who want to become successful consultants, and we have lots of free resources on the website. We have the Consulting Success podcast, hundreds of articles and different studies that we do each year on the state of the consulting industry that we put out there and share for free. And for those that are looking to get more kind of detailed, trainings and support, we have what's called the Momentum program, which is for early stage consultants, for those who are looking to transition from corporate or from being an employee into actually building their own consulting business, where they have great experience and expertise, but they want to really help to kind of follow a proven series of steps to build their business. So that's the Momentum program. That's kind of our online training program. And then we have what's called Clarity Coaching program, and that's for consultants. They might be earlier stage. We have others who are doing anywhere from $1 million to $10 to $15 million a year. And so from the independent solo consultant all the way up to the person that has 5, 10, 30 employees. But the whole idea there is for people who want more support. They want a personalized plan and coaching and interaction with us directly to really help to create a strategy and support them with the implementation of that strategy so they can see much greater results and take their consulting business to the next level.
Great. I love it. And as you mentioned, you've got lots of great resources on your website, so especially if somebody is thinking about this, you can kind of be reading up and thinking, okay, here are some steps that I'm going to have to take. It's not just, ooh, I've got this great idea and I'm going to start a business. There's a lot that goes into it. And so you can be looking at things like that, as you mentioned, the podcast, the blog, other resources. And then of course, the programs and services that you do provide are great resources.
Yeah. Thank you, Deb. Appreciate that.
Great. Well, we've got just a couple minutes left. So do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave folks with?
I'm a big advocate for the idea and concept of imperfect action and the importance of, implementing, because I believe, and I've observed that the more of that you do, the more that you learn whether your hypotheses and, your beliefs are on point, if they're accurate. And you can spend a lot of time planning and thinking and preparing, but ultimately, until you actually put out your ideas into the marketplace, you won't know. And so for those that are listening and are thinking, I want to get into the business, or I want to launch whatever it is that you want to launch. Don't wait for the perfect time, because the perfect time doesn't exist.
Right.
Put it out there now, see how it resonates, learn from it. You either learn that it's not as good as you thought it was, and then you figure out how to make it better, or you learn that maybe you're right on the money and you start seeing the kind of results and response that you want, and you can do more of those things. So I would say that. The other thought that I would just offer people is the power of focus. Don't try and do too many different things at once. Get very clear about what is going to actually move the needle the most and have the biggest impact on your business and on your success. And again, focus on that. Don't always go hunting for the next technology or the next social media platform, or all the different things that keep sprouting up in the society that we're in. Find the most direct path to engage with and reach your ideal clients, and then invest your time, energy, and resources into that area so that you can truly create more conversations. Because if you're in the business of professional services, essentially, working where you're providing recommendations and advice and strategies and guidance to your ideal clients, that's always going to come from, a sale will come from a conversation. It's not going to come from just sending somebody, to a website page. They're not going to sign up for a $25,000 or $100,000 engagement from a link, right? They want to talk to you first. And so, work backwards. Don't think just about what can you do with your marketing materials. Think about what can you actually do right now that's the most direct path to creating a conversation. You might already know a bunch of people right now. And so start with the low-hanging fruit, the most direct path to engage in a meaningful conversation, and you'll learn a lot from doing that.
Great. I love it. I love it. Well, again, I've been having a fascinating discussion. Can't wait to have a third conversation with you. Been talking with Michael Zipursky of Consulting Success. I'm Deb Creer. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.